What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. Today, I'm just going to riff a little bit on some Cubs outfield prospects. I'm just going to tell you what I've seen and what I think about those guys. Some of the names you'll probably recognize, and some of those guys that I'm going to talk about, you might not. But it's going to be fun. I thought it was a great day. The day after Christmas, not a whole lot going on in the news, to just kind of get in depth on some guys who could make a contribution in Chicago sometime in the near future. Hey, I want you guys to make a contribution here on the Cubs Baseball Channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Send show ideas. I love it when you guys comment. Tell me what you guys want me to talk about. And make sure you hit the bell so you know when we're dropping new content. Let's get this thing started. What do you say, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. I'm Mick Gillispie, and it really is a pleasure to have you guys here. Don't forget, at Broadcaster Mick on the socials. And today, as we start to move towards New Year's, we're going to talk a little bit of Cubs outfield prospects. And the reason why is that right now, we're not really sure what's going on. Are the Cubs going to sign Cody Bellinger? They're dealing with Scott Boras, who also pulls the strings for some other guys that they want. So Rhys Hoskins, and I'd love to have him, right? At least you maybe over at first base. And if you trade for Pete Alonso, guess who you're dealing with next year? Right? Blake Snell. Yeah, guess what? Same guy. So this isn't going to be an easy process for the Cubs to get it done. And I would say for Jed, but it could include Tom Ricketts. Who knows? You hear all kind of stuff. That leaves an outfield spot wide open, right? You signed Ian Happ and you signed Seiya Suzuki. So you got the corners covered, although you could have a guy that could help out in those areas. But starting-wise, you got those guys in the corners. Center field is an available position, right? Last year, we saw Mike Tauchman and we saw Cody Bellinger. We also saw a little bit of Pete Crow-Armstrong. So let me start with Pete Crow-Armstrong, who was the Defensive Player of the Year for all of the minor leagues. And I know that if you guys have watched this, you know that I really like him. I call him Hollywood Pete because he just plays the game with a flair. He's just got this swag to him. I think that he's a player who, when he gets to the big leagues, and he's a regular guy, not just, up there as a rookie trying to hang out, but when he starts to get comfortable, there's going to be some guys that don't like the way that he does things because he's got a little bit of this Bryce Harper, type personality. I said Ricky Henderson, he's going to do the catches in the outfield, and, he just does it his way. But he runs the bases extremely well. He's got surprising power, which really was something that I wasn't expecting. And he scores a lot of runs. He's a dangerous player because he's so competitive. And I don't remember seeing someone as competitive as he is in a long time. I think the other day I was talking about one of my favorite players being Ryan Friel, super competitive guy. And Pete Crow-Armstrong's that guy. I could see him like being in the clubhouse and, they're playing cards and people won't want to play with him because he wants to win all the time, and the same thing with video games and stuff like that. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I see on the field. Last year, between double and triple A, hit 283. He had 20 home runs and 82 runs batted in. He had some walk-off hits in Tennessee, did the same thing in Iowa with, I think, a walk-off home run while he was there. The best players in the minor leagues make it look easy. And he struggled a little bit, but it just looked easy to him. It just looked easy. It wasn't that he was overpowered or overmatched. He's like the youngest guy or one of the youngest guys in the league, but he was still one of the best players. And that is a really good attribute to have for a prospect in your organization. And he is the number one prospect, right? And you can tell exactly why that is when you see him play. Leadoff guy, consistently getting on base. And then when the late innings came, he would do some incredible stuff, make a great play in the outfield, score from first base, on a single. He would really put a lot of pressure on the defense to make big plays or make good plays to keep him from coming around and touching home. So I really like him. You guys have seen him. We talked about, his 0 for 14 and the 7 strikeouts. He looked a little, honestly, I didn't think he was overmatched in the big leagues. I just didn't think he looked very comfortable. And I know that my view differs from other people's views, but maybe struggling will help him. I don't know. I was surprised that he struggled there, but I know that there's going to come a point where it clicks. And when it does, all you guys watching will be like, okay, I get it. So he's the first guy. All right, let's talk about the number 3 prospect, where Pete Crow-Armstrong was traded by the Mets in the Javi Baez deal. Owen Caisse was traded by the Phillies in the Yu Darvish deal. And he is a corner outfielder, a right fielder. He's got a big arm, very accurate. He will surprise you with his ability to move. He takes really good angles. He told me that watching Pete Crow-Armstrong every day really inspired him to work harder on his defensive game in the lower levels of the minor leagues. Those guys have been on the same teams a lot. Not to say that he didn't take it seriously, but there's guys who take the practice of playing the outfield differently. I talk about Sam Fold a lot. I never saw someone work harder in the outfield than I saw Sam Fold, where during batting practice, he's just like, as a minor leaguer coming up, he would just watch the ball hit the bat and then run to where he thought it was going to land, turn around and catch it. And it became an art and really the catalyst of his major league career. I remember seeing Dwayne Wise play in the minor leagues and how he would approach the outfield every day. Pete Crow-Armstrong, same way. He's not just out there shagging balls and cracking jokes with the guys, the pitchers that are all out there. He's really serious about it, and it rubbed off on Owen Caisse, who to me is a sneaky good defender. Owen Caisse at the plate in the Southern League last year in Double-A, one of the youngest players, 2021, was one of the most dangerous guys. He, had the big numbers, the home runs, the RBIs, was in the top 5, top 10 of every category that you can think of. Doubles, extra base hits, slugging, all that stuff, right? Total bases. This guy, left-handed batter with power. When he makes contact, he is really dangerous. Strikes out a lot, does walk some too, right? Which is, common with power guys. He has a big weakness right now for the soft stuff from right-handers that comes down and in. It's something that he's going to have to keep on working on, because when he figures out how to identify that and stay off of that pitch and take walks instead of swinging over that, that's when he becomes not just a big leaguer, where he could become a long-term guy. I'm talking about he just has the makeup of a player that you'd see in the big leagues for 10 or 15 years. Really, really like him. And by the time he's ready, after maybe next year, you'll kind of be looking at, say, a Suzuki and maybe Ian Happ and going, hey, you know what? Here's an alternative. He's a guy that I think is going to really beat on the door and put the Cubs in position where they're going to have to find a spot for him. Here's another guy that I wanted to talk about. Kevin Alcantara. Saw him at the end of last year in Double-A. He was the guy the Cubs got back in the Anthony Rizzo trade. Long and lanky. He kind of has that Dave Winfield type of feel. 6'6", 190 pounds. He still hasn't grown into his body yet. He's only 21 out of the Dominican. He's going to keep on getting bigger and stronger. He's nicknamed himself the Jaguar. He's even got a tattoo to go with it. I'll tell you what I really like about this guy is that he is super aggressive at the plate. He's not up there looking to walk. He's up there looking to do damage with his bat. And, those are the kind of guys you really like. Think about Alfonso Soriano when he was in his prime with the Cubs. Like he's not up there worried about his on base percentage as much as he is doing damage at the plate. Last year, Alcantara played for 3 different teams in the minors, got a late start to his season, but 95 games in South Bend and then 5 games in Double-A. So he was high A, Double-A, and he ended up batting .284 with 13 home runs and 71 knocked in. He had 26 doubles, so a lot of extra base hits, did strike out 105 times and just under 400 at bats, but ended up with a .345 on base percentage. He isn't as smooth of a defender to me as Pete Crow-Armstrong or as Owen Caisse. He still has to develop some in that game, but he can make the catches. He just doesn't make it look. You watch Caisse, you watch Hollywood Pete, the routes that they take. There's just a certain pizzazz that these guys have out there. It's just smooth, the routes and stuff. But Alcantara is not out there making a bunch of mistakes. He's a reliable outfielder. Is he going to be a center fielder? I don't know. Maybe more of a corner guy when it's all said and done. But the aggressiveness that this guy has, the confidence that he plays with as he grows and gets bigger, I think that this guy, a lot of people like this guy. A lot of people do. And they look at him and they're like, okay, you know what? Once he gets a little bit more man strength, those doubles are home runs. And this upcoming season, to me, is a huge one for him because he's got some guys ahead of him in the system. But if he goes out there and continues to have this flair for the dramatic, coming up with big hits, and he plays with a super passion to win, I think people like that a lot. He's definitely a winner, and so he's someone to keep an eye on. And finally, today, I want to talk about one of my favorite guys, and I try not to be too biased. I mean, it's not like I'm hanging out with all these guys and I know them. I know them. I mean, I watch them every day, but they do their thing and then I do mine. But I learn a lot about players by the way that they play the game. And this guy actually did get to know, and I like him a lot. And I just wish that he wasn't so, I don't want to say left behind, but I feel like he's overlooked in the Cubs system. And I'm talking about Darius Hill. Darius Hill is not a guy that they traded, a big former player to get. He's a 20th round pick in the 2019 draft out of University of West Virginia. And, he is a baseball player's baseball player. A couple of years ago, 2022, he had 166 hits in a season. He ended up with 166 hits. And I think that was, might have been the most, if not, it was really close to being the most hits that a minor leaguer had that year. And it wasn't just the fact that the guy gets hits. And I don't know that he's like superstar potential. And so that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that in the game of baseball, it takes different type of people to build a roster that's competitive. And this guy maybe, might slot in towards the back of the 26-man roster, but you just love him. He gets on base. He puts the ball in play, makes contact. He reads the defenses well. He reads pitching well. He's just to me, he's a guy that you love to have on your team. Last year it was really tough for him because he only played in 90 games, ended up with 91 hits. And, in that limited amount of time. But I think when I look back at some of the great teams of all times, so it's guys like Hill that are baseball savants. I mean, the way that he can watch a pitcher and figure out what they're doing, then tell the guy on deck the way that he kind of works the game through his head. He's really smart. I think it's beneficial. Is he, the top prospect in an organization? Is he a Major League Baseball all-star? Does he have the potential to be that? That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that winning teams have guys like Darius Hill on there, the guys that'll run through the wall to be there, that will make a play, will do anything to help the team. He's one of those guys. Last year, the Cubs had so many good outfielders on that AAA roster that it was hard to get him on the field. Well, you traded one, Nelson Velazquez, in that deal to Kansas City. Jonathan Perlaza, who is another really good player, signed and is over in Korea now. You figure Pete Crow-Armstrong has a really good shot to be on the big league roster. You'll have Owen Caisse. Darius Hill's maybe like a left fielder. I'm guessing he'll get an opportunity to play. But the analytic crowd isn't going to be in love with Darius Hill. I'm just telling you, that's just not how it is. He's not one of those guys that has the bat speed. Rapsodo's not blowing up because he's at the plate. But when you take the element of the baseball team and you put a guy like Darius Hill in the clubhouse on the field, he's a difference maker. And I really feel like he's one of those guys that I would love to see have a big year. And then, on the right team, could help you win. And the Atlanta Braves always seem to find these kind of guys. And if it's not with the Cubs, maybe somebody else finds him. The other thing with him is if it doesn't happen as a player, don't be surprised if he's not running his own team one day, if he doesn't get into scouting and then a baseball front office. But he's a really, really special guy in that capacity and someone that I believe in a lot. I loved watching him play, and I hope that for his sake, he gets an opportunity to have some success. And maybe this spring training, with the new manager and Craig Counsell. Craig Counsell wasn't one of these guys that analytics would have fell in love with. He was a guy a little bit like Darius Hill that played his cleats off and made an impact with the team by doing little things. Other players may have been the stars, but Craig Counsell was a winner at every level. And I feel like Darius Hill could be that same guy. All right. Hey, you want me to talk about different stuff? Let me know what you want to talk about, and we'll get into it here on the Cubs Baseball channel. I hope you guys had a great Christmas. I want to remind you now that you've got your Christmas stash of cash, go by the Tennessee Smokies team shop. Yeah, smokiesbaseball.com/store. You can get autographed memorabilia signed by guys like Pete Crow-Armstrong, Owen Caisse, other prospects, game-worn jerseys, baseball cards at the collector's corner. They've got Smokies gear. They just won their first championship in 45 seasons. They've got Cubs gear as well, and they are all at really good prices. So go find out for yourself. And that does it for us. Thanks for hanging out, and go Cubs.